Welcome to another episode of Meet the Zor. I am your host, Nick Powles. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel. I feel like I'm watching all these YouTuber influencers telling me that I need to say that, so I just said it. Coming up next, Payroll Vault. Sean, I got to get better at the disclaimer that I put on this because I hate that I really do hate that I have to ask the same question at the beginning of all these. But it's such an important question because every human being in franchising, 99% of us, fell into it. So let's start with your franchise story. How did you fall into franchising?
Yep, that's a good way to describe it. My father actually started at an accounting firm as a franchisee in the 70s. And so I was actually fairly familiar with the idea and the concept. And then that business continued for several years. Unfortunately, the franchise model wasn't as efficient back then due to the changes of technology and the lack of internet and branding. We literally, I think he would place an ad in the yellow pages every year. And really word of mouth was about the only way to get clients. So branding wasn't as important back then or available to the franchisee. So eventually he just owned his own firm, an independent firm, for many years. My original degree is in restaurant management, and I probably went that direction knowing that franchising was a big deal in the restaurant industry. So I thought maybe that might be an avenue that I decided to go in. But eventually, after a couple of years in the franchise industry, I was having a conversation with my dad, and he asked if I would come back and maybe work for him and buy the firm. And we eventually did that. I had a lot of friends. A lot of collaboration with friends in the accounting industry, and that were all former franchise people. So we understood the relationship part of franchising, and then eventually got into payroll services as a sister company. And in order to help a lot of my friends in the accounting industry that wanted to leverage the resources we had put together, and really ask for help in starting it in a payroll business, that led us into franchising to help these other accounting firms be successful with payroll. So now as we look forward to today, I've since transitioned out of my accounting firm and sold it, and we continue to grow the Payroll Vault brand. But it's an interesting story just because it goes back so far from a family standpoint, and now we're available to help others be successful with a Payroll Vault business.
When your dad was in it as a franchisee, did you understand what that meant?
A little bit. I think I had always this entrepreneurial spirit, and my understanding is that brand was there to help them systematize, give them a method, help support them, educate, train. And so we used all those resources. I remember my dad literally using those to grow and be successful with his business. So I kind of had a good sense that what it was all about even back then.
So flash forward, you take on the business from your dad, you continue to grow it, and you decide that now is the time to franchise it. Did you lean back on him for advice, or did you just go out and do it on your own?
Yeah, no, at that time, I think he taught me a lot previously. So he just knew the systems were important. I leveraged the systems. So he gave me the springboard or the foundation is probably the best way to describe it. Yeah. Then we literally researched, my business partner, Trisha, and I researched the opportunity to franchise for about a year. And luckily in Denver, Colorado, there's a lot of people that are in franchising, so it was easy to get connected. And then we made the decision to move forward in 2012, and have been 10 years in and over 60 locations now, and really positioned for growth over the next couple of years.
Out of curiosity, because I think this could be a question that helps the emerging franchisor, or the one that is thinking about doing this. As an accountant, you look at the fees or the cost that it's going to take you to franchise your business. Was that a hurdle that you had to get over?
A little bit. I had done acquisitions before, so I've bought and sold companies, and I know what the investment side of things are. So, and I know how important it is to be kind of well funded or know what it's going to look like. But like starting any business, it can be a little bit intimidating. But overall, we were I think, pretty well positioned with resources, and I had a pretty good idea, and we got a good start. And I think that you mentioned the emerging brands. We had about 4 or 5 people that were already, committed to buy a franchise. So we did quite a bit of research on the front end and a lot of work getting in position. But that helped a lot. We weren't going that first year or two without a franchise, which I think a lot of emerging brands do. So we were just well prepared.
All right. So 2012, become a franchise. Go back to 2012.
Yep.
What's your dream like, and how has your dream played out? Are you thinking as an emerging franchisor, man, we're going to have 100 of these in the first year, or are we going to take slow and methodical growth? Like, what were your expectations, and how did your expectations play out over the next 11 years?
Oh gosh, yeah, budgeting is always a crazy thing to do, right? I think I put together about 4 or 5 budgets. A couple of them we weren't even close to, like pie in the sky, and then really scaling that back to even like worst case scenario. So we were much better than that. So there was a middle ground as far as our budget. I do look at a lot of financial statements, and we invested a lot of resources on the front end, the people piece. We worked hard to be a brand that existed right out of the gate, which does cost quite a bit of money and resources. But I think for me, it was important to do it that way. I had already basically exited my accounting firm. I had a full-time staff running that firm. We had our Payroll Vault Littleton office that was successful and almost running itself. So I could focus literally all my attention towards the franchise part of the business and helping other businesses be successful. And I think that's what it boils down to for me, is I've had a lot of mentors over my career in restaurants, in the accounting industry, in payroll, and then shifting over to franchise. Oh my gosh, the mentorships in franchising are incredible, right? All these great people you meet. And then it's really paying that back. So our job is to build a great model for our franchisees to be successful, so they can create a legacy type business for themselves or a good asset down the road for them long term. So their now is our success.
What's the dream now? Where do you said we've positioned this for growth?
Yeah.
Now where's the dream? Where does this go from here?
Yeah, we've done some work in getting well connected and some investment partners with Metric Collective, and that really has positioned us for growth. So now, over the next 10 years, we'd like to really get up to several hundred units, whether that's 200 or 400 or 500. Those are all good numbers that are attainable. So how do we scale to do that? To really solidify the brand long term for our franchisees and their success. So how do we help them grow and build bigger, stronger, more profitable businesses? And that's our focus. Getting to a brand that's well respected in like franchising, in the accounting industry, in the business industry overall, and a brand that's recognized in the market.
How are your franchisees doing from a not from a validation standpoint, from expectation standpoint? Because obviously 60 is fantastic. They probably feel like they're a part of the club, and they hear some of the news that you're going through that is going to position this to have even more blood in the system. How are they doing? How's their mood? And how's that been going?
Yeah, COVID has literally changed the dynamic of how businesses manage their team of people. And we helped a lot of them with PPP loans. We helped a lot of small businesses with the ERC credits, and still today doing a lot of that work for business owners. And the other thing that's changed is what we call workforce management, just payroll processing. So how do we help business owners find new employees? There's systems to do that. How do we get them to onboard their employees more efficiency with the learning management system? How do we help them process the payroll and gather the information through scheduling or through time clocks? What are their HR functions, pay-as-you-go workman's comp? So our business model, we now have several income streams, whereas 10 to 15 years ago, we only had a few. But all of those income streams are designed to help these small business owners be more successful and manage their teams of people better. And so it really compounds the business opportunity for our franchise owners, and they're doing very well. It's a scalable business model. It's a low cost brand. I mean, we can get people in business for about $100,000, but you got to go get clients. And then you process payroll, and we have a premium software solution. And so it's really about getting clients and then building your business. So after you get through that first year or two, our business owners are strong, and they just continue to grow the business from there. That you really just need one location to get to a level that you're comfortable with. You don't need multiple locations with the Payroll Vault brand, because you can basically do business for any small business owner that you're associated with or networked with.
When you're talking, my unsolicited advice as I hear you talk, I think, like, I always look at a business and I try to figure out what is the why you why now. And I think you do something that's much bigger than here's a franchise opportunity. I think what you just said is you allow entrepreneurs to be small business owners, which what that means is, like, you go out there and you build the business, let us do everything else. And for an entrepreneur that can't be a small business owner, they have to have every side of their brain working on how do I manufacture this thing. And I think that's a huge part of the why you why now. And again, unsolicited, I think, like, where I see you in the industry, I've seen you so many different times throughout our working within the same franchise community. I don't know that you take credit for all that you've done as a human that now sets this up for the buyer. I've always said that brands don't sell brands, people do. So either take your story or take that franchisee Hall of Fame and make that the landing page when you land on here. Because what that shows, if you scroll through that, you just see all these franchisees that are saying, you allowed me to be my best self when it came to being a business owner, my career, taking care of my family, everything that I set out to do, you've set me up for that. And from my viewpoint, you're selling a business in the way that you position it, but you have such an awesome story that's behind this, for what it's worth.
Oh no, you kind of, here's how we describe it. We call it foundation system success. So we're here to provide the foundation of a great business, all the systems to help them be successful and manage, but their success is their own aim or purpose in what they try to accomplish, right? So we build that culture component, but there's a handoff, and the business owner has to, really focus in on what their success goals are. And once we know what those are, kind of like a framework for their own success, we can actually help support them and so they can achieve those goals.
Yeah, I think that's great. And look, that ultimately, whenever I've talked with a franchise buyer about some of the things that push them over the edge, it's what would keep them up at night is if they didn't feel supported or they felt like there was too much on their plates that they just weren't experts or genius at. And I think you're solving that in the way that you've engineered this business model. Sean, is there anything else? Like, if there's a ghost candidate that's been watching this, is like, okay, I'm intrigued by this. Is there anything else you want the buyer to know about Payroll Vault?
Yeah. Well, and I think that's what makes us a little bit different. We are a repeatable revenue model, right? You pay business employees every week or two. There's quarterly processing, year-end processing. We leverage technology. We're technically a remote business model. So people can literally spend time away from an office and process or have remote employees. Scalable, as I mentioned, you add your first 25 clients, then your first 100, and then your next 100. So you can easily scale this model up. Like I said, my original degree is in restaurant management. So I found myself in payroll, but when you help small business owners as a business owner be successful with some of their number one challenges, employee management, it can be pretty rewarding. So all of those are what make us different as a franchise and business opportunity.
I love it. Look, I love how far you've come. I love your optimism for the future. I've been watching you and have known you for quite some time. And look, I think the way that you've set up this business is exactly what franchising is supposed to be, and maybe a little bit more of that buzz around the business could open up some more opportunity for folks to say Payroll Vault makes sense for me. So, Sean, appreciate you sharing your story. This is another episode of Meet the Zor.